Welcome to the 30/30 Health Podcast. The following discussion is for education and entertainment. It is not intended to diagnose or treat disease. Please do not apply any of this information without first discussing it with your doctor. Here is your host, Guillermo Ruiz.
Hello everyone, today's guest on the show is Emily Schromm. Emily is a certified personal trainer, CrossFit coach, and nutritional therapy practitioner based out of Denver, Colorado. From MTV Challenge winner to Women's Health Magazine Next Fitness Star and entrepreneur, Emily's journey of self-discovery has led her to a full-time career in helping others. Struggling her whole life with body image, gut trouble, and skin issues, nutrition and fitness has completely turned her life around. Primarily running her 21-day EmFit Challenge online, she works with clients in Denver and around the world to change the food on their plate in order to feel their absolute best. Outside of her website and online training at emilyschromm.com, she also is the inventor of the EmPack, the world's first and only backpack turned weight training bag that is designed to keep you moving and strength training no matter your location. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember to visit my website, 3030strong.com. Super excited to be here with Emily Schromm. You know, I met Emily at PaleoFX and we were in a botanical panel and we just had so much fun discussing the intricacies of plants and, all the, just nerding out on phytochemicals and phytochemistry. Em, how are you doing?
I am so good. I'm so glad that you brought me on the show. I had so much fun on that panel and I am blown away by your knowledge and how fun you are to be around. So I'm just thrilled that you had me on.
Well, it's insane because I think whatever we want to call it now, paleo, ancestral, evolutionary, a couple of years ago, 2014, Daniel Vitalis was presenting and he did a badass presentation. On a snippet of that presentation, he said, paleo people, you guys need to get into botanicals. And I came back to school. This is before I had a podcast or a blog or anything. And I was like, how am I going to impact this community? And sure enough, we have a very robust research department. And we were doing some stuff with like colloidal silver and antimicrobials. And then we started getting into botanicals and it just exploded, because botanicals are so amazing. But before we get into that, super cool subject, I want to know your hero story. How did you arrive to this space?
Oh, that's a big question. Well, one, I love that you said hero because that's exactly what I feel like happened. Like all of us at some point in our life, we kind of feel a little lost and unsure of what we're doing. And for me, it felt just like I hit the biggest wall and I was so unhappy and I was so sick of being unhappy. And for me at the time, it was just a physical unhappiness. I was unhappy with the way I looked and decided to do something about it. I've always been an athlete. I always played soccer, but I just felt like I never really knew the answers to things. And I was always expecting someone to take care of that for me. And so finally I just got sick of that and I started doing my own research and got all crazy about being in the gym. I became a total meathead. And now I call myself a meathead hippie because what happened was this self-exploration of figuring out how the body works and how, even though I got into the gym because I didn't like the way my body was, I found out so much more than I ever could have imagined and started getting into gut health and became a nutritional therapy practitioner after becoming a personal trainer for a few years and just really became empowered by empowering myself with knowledge and then wanted to do the same for other people. So I said that I found my inner superhero and then my job is to help others find the same.
That's so interesting, and I was having a conversation with one of my friends from school, just graduated Saturday, and it's so insane that I went through 4 years of school where everyone, I had a schedule planned ahead for me. And I wake up, study, take a test, do some research. And it was very different. And some days I worked 16 hours, but it was structured. And now I have to study for boards and I have to make my own structure. And it's just so difficult. And I know that some athletes struggle with that, especially when you get to the elite level, because they have a coach that tells them when to practice, how to practice, what to eat, when to go to sleep, when to show up for the game. How do you motivate, or how do you change people's minds in order for them to start having their own scheduling, and how to change their habits about eating and sleeping and all those very necessary things?
Such a great question, because that's really where the change occurs, right? So like even as just a personal trainer, when I was doing one-on-ones, I would give somebody the best workout and they would feel so good and they would be sore in all the right places, but it really depends on all the other time they're not with me. And that's when people see results, whether it's weight loss or whether it's hormone balance or whether it's sleeping better. Everything has to come down to how they are doing what are they doing to make it happen. And so I think for me, I try to teach people, like, instead of just saying this is what you should do. And that's the whole concept of my training, and the challenge is just, I want to explain it in a way that makes you so excited about it that you get so nerdy and you realize how good your body can feel when you start to do those things. And that's when it becomes a sustainable change. Because if I just said to someone, cut sugar, everyone knows sugar's bad. But if I start tying it into them personally, whether it's them waking up at 3 a.m. wide awake and they're not sure why, and it's something that's happened their whole life or for a long time, and telling them maybe that's actually because of the way we're eating, and having those little things, the light bulb moments click for them. And that's been what's been really helpful for helping them have a structure. But I also feel like it's really cool because when your gut starts to function properly and when you start to get your blood sugar under control, all the decisions happen easier. So it's harder when you have a compromised gut, or when you have up and down roller coaster energy rides throughout the day. Those decisions, the easy quick fixes, grabbing sugar, craving sugar, wanting bad food, all of that's going to happen. It's more likely to happen. So when you get somebody to start healing their body and then realizing the awesome consequences of that, they're more likely to sustain that change as well.
A couple of things that you touched on. For example, when you become hangry, and that you just want to eat something now, and it's not hunger, it's actually a blood sugar dipping down below, where you need to be. And now it's easier to go and get a Snickers bar, or go get, something that is going to be a fast, jet fuel glucose bomb, than setting some time to maybe prepare, some food. So who are your clients? Who's you don't do one-on-ones anymore?
So I do for nutritional therapy. So my personal training clients, I try to meet. That was actually a big change, to no longer train as a longtime trainer, to stop training people one-on-one, because I love it so much. But what I do is I do group workouts in Denver, just like outside. We'll pick once a month and do group workouts in the park, or some fun hike. But what I do is one-on-one with nutritional therapy clients, and any of my clients, most of my clients are online. So most of my business is through these 21-day challenges that I run and some Skype consults. And really the blood sugar issue is such a huge piece, especially for athletes when they're trying to get inflammation down and they're trying to see results in the gym. It all comes down to where their cortisol is. It comes down to their adrenal function. And then we look at, okay, we could talk blue in the face about how to supplement adrenals, but what's the root issue for those adrenals to be fired up? And then the first place we go to is, let's control blood sugar, because when we hit that hangriness, when that drop in blood sugar goes down, I mean, your body thinks it's dying. And so it's that sugar craving. The way to survive is that cortisol, and then we get into that. So sometimes I love working with athletes, especially someone that really needs to heal. But for the most part, I'm just working with people that just know that something's off, which I love. I love when people are intuitive enough, they trust their body, they're not getting the right answers from conventional doctors, and they're like, okay, what's the step that I'm missing? And it's usually very foundational work that I do. So it's digestive support, and it's keeping the gut to where it's happy and functioning the way it should, and really working on blood sugar control. And with that comes the adrenal support if needed.
It's so amazing that we're not just adrenals, and we're not just a gut. We are a whole human being,
and maybe there's some imbalances. But once you start fixing those imbalances, then the gut starts healing, and then your adrenals come back. Maybe you were a little hypothyroid, and now your thyroid begins to work a little bit better. And then you might need a little bit of like very specific supplementation to help you with your hormones, but after a while you can maintain all of that with very little supplementation, with a good diet, good sleep, and good exercise.
I know, and it's crazy. It's like, I think we live in a culture of drastic changes. Like, if it's not drastic enough, then it's not going to get me the results I want. That's just like, I think I'm even guilty of that. If it doesn't hurt, if the workout didn't hurt enough, or if I didn't go through some extreme change, then it's not worth it. But it's so not true, because it's like, before you know it, all this accumulation of better sleep and all this accumulation of hydrating appropriately, it can change your whole life.
Yeah, I didn't hydration, water. I didn't even
Yeah.
mention water. It's like such a big important. I had Louis.
You
Yeah,
mean LaCroix?
yeah,
LaCroix.
like LaCroix or just plain water. Although I'm very jealous because I've never seen a tangerine LaCroix. I'm a big fan of the coconut LaCroix. But tangerine, now I'm gonna have to go look for it.
It's my new favorite.
Now I'm gonna talk about LaCroix. Do you like the combination ones, like the mango one? I don't like the mango one.
So the mango and the coconut, to me, they kind of smell like sunscreen or like tanning oil. So
Yeah.
I just can't get down with it. But the fruit ones I like.
I really like the cerise lemon, the cherry lemon one.
I have not had that.
The problem is that it comes in a skinny can.
Oh, I've seen it. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's kind of weird, for me to walk around with a skinny can of LaCroix. But for all my listeners out there, one of my favorite smoothies is a can of LaCroix, 2 shots of tequila, and the juice of 1 lime.
Yes, that's what I did. That's why we got the tangerine. So you have to do it with the tangerine. It is the best margarita.
Yeah, it's so good.
I love that you call it a smoothie.
I'm not a big fan of smoothies. Many years ago, fun story. Many years ago, after Rob Wolf was on the Joe Rogan show for the first time, Rob was like, "Listen, Joe, you can eat bacon and eggs for breakfast. It's okay." And Joe was like, "What?" Mind blown, And then he's like, "You know what? My favorite breakfast is a smoothie. It's a green smoothie, and it would have kale and all these greens." And then he says, and then you take a green apple, because you put a green apple in that thing and everything tastes amazing. And then you get a big chunk of ginger, and you put a big chunk of ginger. And then Rob was like, "Well, you can do that. Just make sure you add some MCT oil or some olive oil, because there's some B vitamins there, and there's some fat-soluble vitamins that you're not going to be able to absorb unless there's some fat there." And I was just listening, and I was like, "You know what? I'm going to try it." So I go to the store and I buy all these things and I make my smoothie, and I didn't have a Ninja. So it was more like a chopped salad. And I was just trying to guzzle this thing out, and I was like dry heaving, and I was like, "You know what? Maybe smoothies are not for me. I'll just stick to the bacon and eggs." But that's so important. We live in this fast internet and information highway that just throws information at us, and everyone has the answer. And then you hear this message, and then you go and try it, and if you don't make it, or if it doesn't work for you, then you feel like a failure. How do you help your clients find the appropriate diet for them?
Yeah, so I hit this a lot, because this is huge. Because if I'm in person with somebody, I can do the testing that's appropriate, and I can really figure out this amazing bio-individual approach. Just, this person needs this and this person needs this. It's no guessing, it's just one-on-one. And so when I was starting to kind of take my nutritional therapy and put it into my online training, because I was usually just doing, here's the meal plan, here's like the basics of nutrition, and here's workouts. When I started learning about nutritional therapy and how there is no one answer for all, that was something that I just like felt this huge weight of responsibility that, all these people, if they're coming to me for advice, that's the first thing I have to teach them. So it's frustrating because most people want a very cookie cutter response. They want something that fits their body and fits their mold, and they don't want to think about it. But it's just, I try to teach them that it's very short-sighted. So if you are trying to fit yourself just because it might seem easier with the grocery list or with this specific macronutrient chart made for the person that's 5'5" and a woman that's wanting to lose weight, if you are putting yourself into that box and it doesn't work, then you're going to think that everything has failed and you have failed, just like you said. And it's so frustrating because I see that over and over where people are like, I tried that, it didn't work for me. And the whole goal of my training and the paleo-ish kind of concept that I teach is that you have to guinea pig it for what is right for you. And that depends on genetics. It depends on your metabolism from your past workouts, or not workouts, but past diets that you've tried. So many people have done a lot of crash dieting and their metabolism just works a little bit differently. There's also just those, I think the genetic thing is huge, because if you can test and see how your body adapts to fat and how it adapts to carbs, it's like there's just so much you can learn about your body. And you can do it intuitively. You can do it just by guinea pigging and trying a little bit of this and trying a little bit of that. But it just takes a lot of patience. So I think my biggest way of teaching them is just telling them over and over what worked for you might not work for the person next to you. If they're getting amazing results, and you want to try the same thing and it's just not working, obviously there's some point where you have to stick with it long enough to know that it's working or not, because sometimes people give up way too soon. Like, at least stick with something for 2 to 3 weeks. I say 3 weeks because I think that's the most important thing. If it's still not really working after 3 weeks, trust your instinct. Trust that and monitor and change it a little bit. Maybe you need to increase your fats and drop down your carbs, but a lot of times it's maybe we need to increase your carbs and drop your fats. And so we're playing around with that person's ideal diet, which doesn't exist. It's so about what they're able to be patient with and figure out on their own.
And it gets frustrating because you see all these people that have been very successful with paleo-ish or whatever you want to call it, and then you buy your book, you start doing a couple of recipes, you start seeing the pounds shed, and then you start seeing all these recipes and you start overcomplicating things. If you saw what I ate on a day-to-day, it's basically the same meal, and I just switch my veggies and I switch my protein, but it's basically a stir fry with 3 different types of vegetables and curry powder. And that's it.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and over and over and over and over and over again. And then once in a while I throw down, and that's when I go and I visit Num Num Paleo, or I, look at an amazing recipe and I go out and make a huge meal, and then it's so time consuming and delicious, but it's non-sustainable. What are some tricks like that you use, or in fact, what do you eat today?
That's a great question. I think it's exhausting. It's so exhausting trying to get recipes that, it looks so beautiful and people that are healthy do them. And so you assume that I will be healthy if I do this as well. But food is supposed to be so simple. Obviously it's fun and it's an amazing way to connect with people, but I only go crazy cooking if I have a party and I have somebody coming over, because then it's a social thing. Then it's not just me enjoying it. It's like, it's about talking about the food and experiencing the food with somebody else. But for the most part, all my food is made in a skillet, just like you. So I always start with 3 eggs and then a bunch of, I usually do a cabbage type stir fry. And I usually do harissa powder is my favorite, and mustard powder. If I'm going to work out, which I did a pretty intense workout today, then when I did my smoothie, I added like a banana. So it was actually really terrible today. I think I think I put too much red chard in it. It was like really bitter. So I usually do like a kale, red chard, almond milk kind of smoothie. I've been doing the Rhonda Patrick smoothie. I'm inspired by her, but I do a little less carb than she does. So I had a little bit more carb in it today. And then I worked out, and then I immediately have a workout shake. So I do a beef protein isolate because I don't do well with dairy, and I mix it with sweet potato powder. So it's kind of a nice little carb protein blend. And then I had, what did I have? Oh gosh, I'm obsessed with the Primal Kitchen mayo. So like I got some Wild Planet tuna with the Primal Kitchen mayo and some veggies and plantain chips. And that was my
Oh man,
lunch.
that sounds delicious.
And that's pretty much what I eat every day.
So, I have a recipe for a chicken salad. So it's basically you go buy rotisserie chicken or you roast your own chicken, and then you add the mayonnaise, cranberries, and then just celery and onions. And it's one of those things again. Back to the I make this salad very seldomly because it's so delicious. I ask people, could you eat 2 cups of mayonnaise? And no, could you eat a whole rotisserie chicken? Just no. But you combine the rotisserie chicken with a little bit of sweetness from the cranberries, with some onions and some celery. You put it all together. Now you have 5,000 calories that you can just sit down and eat with plantain chips. And that's completely paleo, but even within paleo foods, you can overdo them.
I have a funny story about this because my first introduction to paleo was Rob Wolf and the Paleo Solution. So I read his book and I literally shut the book and I was like, done. So I went to my fridge, I threw everything away that I couldn't have, and I just like totally winged it. I had no idea what I was doing. But then I knew I could have almond flour. So if I can't make things with, gluten or bread, I was like, I'll just make things with almond flour. And I made these cookies. I swear, Guillermo, I ate a pound of almonds. I ate this cookie dough. It was amazing. It was like all, paleo. And then I realized as soon as I finished, I was like, that was a pound. I would never be able to do a pound of almonds. My stomach hurt so bad. It was such a good lesson for me to realize in that moment, like no matter what, you could be gluten-free, dairy-free, paleo-ish, you can always overdo it. And so, yes, that's a very good point.
What's your cheat? When you kick your heels and you want to, I don't even know what we call it that. I just say enjoying food every once in a while, What do you like to do?
So I usually do, this maybe isn't the best answer, but wine has always been like my thing, like if I'm going to have something, it's wine, but I really, really love, I don't even know if this counts, but I love chips. I love corn chips so much. Like good corn chips are so good. So, or tacos, like corn tacos with like, God, and I try to not have a lot of corn just because of the way it is, but I guess it's something corn based. Like it used to be, I used to love sweet stuff, and that's completely gone away. So I'm all about the corn chips and the tacos.
Some good pico and some chips. Now I'm just gonna go raid my kitchen. So okay, so you used to have a sweet tooth. My girlfriend had a monster sweet tooth. Like when we started doing this paleo thing, she would tell me, because I used to work at a hospital, so 12 hours I was gone. She would tell me, you know what? I could go to the store, buy a sheet cake, eat it, hide the evidence, and you would never know. How did you get rid of that sweet tooth? Was it just automatic?
No, I think, I talk about this a lot for my challengers because their goal is to cut sugar. So I only allow them they can have fruit, but obviously with the disclaimer, just have it in moderation. And it's honey and maple syrup. So my goal is for a lot of people, this is a huge change when they start reading how much sugar is in everything. And what I found, especially in the last couple challenges, as I've, just been able to do the seminars I'm doing as a nutritional therapy practitioner, I have just found it so fascinating that if someone cannot cut that sweet tooth within 2 weeks, because I think sometimes it's just breaking that habit, right? It's just telling your body, this is not something we need. Let's slowly get off of it. And it's been really good for some people where they are like, wow, I stopped craving sugar. But then there's this other side of the spectrum where it's like, no matter how much they cut sugar, there is a lot of sugar craving still happening. And then that's where I look at, okay, there's some sort of nutritional deficiency here where we could help the pancreas in a way. A lot of times it's people that are struggling with insulin resistance. And so that's when I address, they probably have some cortisol issues as well, and they have some blood sugar issues. Their sleep's not as great. So there's other symptoms other than just I'm craving sugar all the time. But if they have taken their magnesium at night and then but every night they're still craving chocolate and they're like wanting to kill somebody, then I look at more about supporting insulin resistance. And that's been really powerful for a lot of people who just felt like they were just some crazy person that couldn't kick the sugar habit. So that's been really cool.
I never had a sweet tooth. So I never had that struggle, but going to school and seeing patients, and that is like I've asked a lot of people, and I don't know if it's like selection bias that people that don't have that strong sweet tooth, we tend to go into this keto, paleo, whatever we're going to call it, type of diet, because we really don't mind not having it. But the one thing I had the most trouble giving up was Diet Coke. And the way I gave it up was with LaCroix. Just having, that one by one switch, and now, I haven't had a Diet Coke in, I don't even know when was the last time I did, but it was just so key to have that substitution. And I know it doesn't work with everything. I know, like switching sugar for stevia is not a good strategy. But man, having those LaCroix like saved my ass.
I know, especially Diet Coke, because it's like, it's so easy to get in that cycle of, for many people, it's like, it's just one every once in a while, but it's, it's crazy. I just get so crazy because, I think Diet Coke, I mean, you know this by now, but so many people don't realize like how much it affects our neurological function. And that's something that, I don't know, did you notice a big difference when you took it out?
It was like a switch, I because I couldn't function without it. And to the point that I remember having dinners where I would go to the fridge, had my paleo dinner, and I didn't have Diet Cokes. So I was like, I'll be right back. I'm going to the gas station. It controlled my life.
Wow. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's an addiction at that point. I don't know if it's, the aspartame or, all of those things maybe triggering some sort of receptor, but it was bad. And it was one of those things that I was like, I'm just gonna have to do it.
What was your deciding factor? Like, what was your...
That I was making a lot of excuses. At that point, it's like anything, my family gives me crap about drinking a margarita every once in a while. "Oh, you're so healthy. Why are you drinking?" And when people at my work would say, "Well, you're eating all of that and you're drinking that crap," at that point, it was more like an example, And that's another tough part about being a practitioner. And maybe I don't know if you've experienced this. We have to be very careful with the things that we do in public, especially as now a doctor. I can't I'm not gonna be able to just go out to a bar and just start drinking and acting dumb, because what if one of my clients or one of my patients sees me, and it's a sacrifice that I took, and I'm not sad, I'm not gonna miss those days. But it's something that we have to take into consideration. And anyone out there listening that wants to become a practitioner, go do it, But remember that this is more than just schooling. This is more than just, you are going to be taking care of people. And with great power comes great responsibility.
It's so true. It's very true. It's a good thing though. I mean, I kind of was thinking that today, like how much my job has evolved and how, we obviously do it because we love helping people. We just have such a passion for getting people true info. But with that comes this responsibility of ourselves, not just, living what we preach, because I think that comes pretty organically, but constantly growing. And people don't realize that, like, in order to be the best practitioner, we will always be learning, and it's just who we are. We're always asking questions and we're always reaching out to people to just gain more knowledge, because as soon as we stop learning is when we become a poor practitioner. So I think that's awesome that we're always like looking for more answers in other places.
Just trying to get to the next level of health. Like for example, before I went to PFX, I tried to eat the cleanest diet, like, a couple of weeks eating better, because I want to be out there and I want to be on that stage and I want to look the part.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, well,
go ahead.
you you did great.
Oh, thank you. Thank
I
you.
was on stage with you. You did great.
Oh, it was so much fun. It was so weird, like because I printed shirts and then walking around and then like I was looking at some acro yoga and then I realized that one of the girls was wearing one of my shirts. So I
Oh,
ran out there and took a picture and then my friend Tiffany goes, "You can't fanboy over yourself."
I do the same about my MPAC. So that backpack that I have that I invented, I was just like, when I see somebody with the MPAC, I scare the shit out of them. I chase them down. It's only happened a couple times, but I just like, that's my backpack. Like I designed that. I made that. And it's just so funny because they're like, who is this crazy person? And then we hug it out and it's always really fun.
Let's talk about that. How'd you come up with that pack?
Oh yeah. So I was in California watching the CrossFit games and it's so crazy if you ever watch like any sort of sports event. It's exhausting. And then there's no way for you to work out. It's all these people working out and you can't do anything. So I was like, I have to work out. I'm going crazy. So I went to the hotel room, but there was no hotel gym. And so I took a suitcase, I stuffed it with a bunch of stuff that I found in the hotel, and I just started squatting with it on the balcony. And I was like, what can I use what's weight that's portable? And it just was this light bulb moment that why don't I use water as weight? So it comes with water reservoirs that you can fill with sand, and it's a backpack with a laptop sleeve. But when you want it to be a training bag, you take off the straps and you tighten it up, and it looks just like a sandbag, but it's just like so much more functional. So it's been really, really fun.
And so cute.
Thank you. I think so too. I mean, there are some manly colors. There's a black and orange, but my favorite is the purple,
The
of
purple
course.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you buy one and you go hiking in Denver and you happen to spot a wild Emily, then you'll get chased, and then that's part of the workout.
That's part of it. I'm a great hugger, so just be ready for it.
But it's so insane how this movement has evolved, and how so many people from so many different backgrounds have landed onto this movement. And I want you to talk about MTV.
Oh man. Oh yeah. Where do you want me to start?
What happened first, Paleo or MTV?
MTV. So I was on MTV when I was 20 years old. And it was actually through seeing myself, and actually the biggest thing was my skin. I had always terrible acne, always had stomach issues, and then I always suffered from just like I call it, you could call it depression or anxiety, but I just like had this severe self-loathing that I just couldn't even watch myself on TV. I never even watched an episode. I hated it. So that's actually what inspired me to start taking my life into my own hands and change what I didn't like. And so initially it was the physical part, but then I found, oh my God, this is so much more than physical. This is about my gut. And then this is tied into my skin. And that's how the whole thing happened. So when I was first on MTV, it was just Real World DC, and it was just this total crazy social experiment of 8 people living in a house. And I always saw it as it was just a way for me to get out of Missouri. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I'm always one to say yes to opportunity. And so when it came to me, I thought it was a complete joke, but I also just knew that I would be mad at myself if I said no. So I didn't even hesitate. And it was just this really fun way of me learning a lot about myself in a very short period of time, because you're put around people that don't like you, or they know you're not going to like them, and you have to go through those emotions, and not just go through it, but then talk about it. So it made me like, even today, when I have something that makes me feel off or anxious or yucky, I instantly go back to what made me feel that way. And that's the same with nutrition. Like I think it's why it's made me a really great practitioner and this detective, because if something is off, whether it's if my brain is foggy or if my gut hurts, I want to know why. And I swear it's real world, because I would go through something, they would take me back, we would sit in the interview room and we would have to talk about why. And I would go through everything that happened for why I felt a certain way. And I think everyone should do that. We tend to avoid anything that's uncomfortable, and there's no growth from that. And so I feel like I grew so much because of that self-reflection and that analyzing and all of that stuff that I still try to implement today.
We talk a lot about hormesis, and how, having low level stressors, like, for example, when you're growing muscle, you tear a couple of fibers, and then when you heal, those fibers are bigger, and now you're going to be able to lift more. And we talk about that with a little bit when you talk about like eating mushrooms, how mushrooms attach to different receptors in your gut, and they stress your gut, but there's a very low level of stress that your body then overcomes, and then now you're better, your immune system is ramped up.
Is that all mushrooms?
So the beta glucans in mushrooms do that. Some toll-like receptors in your colon, they get activated. But yeah, so we don't have that. We don't put ourselves through mental hormesis. And we hold on to things far too long. And I think that debriefing of sitting back in the back room and like let it all out, and maybe they just want to catch you crying, but but the effect that has on you and that introspection, I bet it's super healing.
Oh, it is. I just think it's powerful. I mean, it's hard, but all good things are hard, right? So that was a really big takeaway from the show that I never would have expected walking in. And it was really fun. It was a way for me to find out about myself, to grow, to get out of Missouri. I did a bunch of those challenge spin-offs. So where it's like Survivor. So you're competing, and it was just a great experience. I'm really grateful for the experience that I had.
So what do you react to? What are your like triggers? You say you don't do dairy. Does it break you out?
Yeah, so dairy and gluten and soy are really big for me. And it's usually some sort of, I think it's more I think canola oil or any sort of soybean oil. If I have any of that, it's instead of not so much like soy lecithin, but any sort of polyunsaturated fat oil that's just not good tends to be something that hurts my gut pretty instantly. So I usually can put something in my mouth and my stomach will instantly respond. It's very quick to respond. But I've always had, it's interesting when I think about how long I've had gut issues, and it's been since I was 4 or 5. I mean, I can remember just forever and ever of always feeling like my stomach hurt, and I just had totally accepted that as normal. And I think many people do. They just assume that it's just how it is, and I just had coping mechanisms to make it happen and get through life. But it was when I realized that it was actually the food I was eating, then, I mean, God, that was life-changing.
How many people are out there walking around, not knowing what healthy feels like? And I think that once you get a person to like within spitting distance of that 90% health, that's when you get the real buy-in. Because now they're defending their health, and now they're going to go out of their way to tap on the waiter and say, hey, can you hold the croutons? And that's when because I remember, going so many years feeling not, thinking that I was healthy, like we talk about hunger and being hungry. Now, when I get hungry, it's almost like motivating, as it should be. It's like time to go hunt or time to go prepare your meal, where before it was like debilitating.
Yeah, or it's almost, especially for clients who have had some sort of eating disorder in the past, it's almost a sign of, when people get hungry, they feel weak or they feel like a failure, because to them, when they eat food, they're contributing to the reason that they don't like their body. And I forget sometimes, outside of my bubble of CrossFit or paleo, that there are many people in this world that think that eating less will give them the results they want, especially younger girls. And so people going through high school and puberty, and it breaks my heart because I was that person too, where I thought that if I didn't eat, I would get what I wanted out of my body. And it's just the complete opposite. And so just helping people have that relationship with food that is healthy and strong is just the most important thing that you can give somebody. And it's a total journey, I think, but it's so cool. Like what you said, when you feel hungry or motivated, it's like exciting because you know that it's fueling your body, it's feeding your brain. It's just a really cool relationship with food, but it takes a long time to sometimes get to that point.
What do you do when you get like cross contamination, or like when you mess up and it's traveling, it's so hard sometimes, and sometimes you think you're eating something super clean and you're not.
Oh yeah.
So what's your go-to?
Well, I think if I'm traveling and I really have no other option, I didn't come prepared. I think the first thing I try to get is a bunch of vitamin C or quercetin or just something to kind of like calm the histamine reaction because I instantly get really gross right here. I also do a ton of uh, digestive enzymes. So I carry them in my purse, and I usually have I have ones that are tons of lactase, and then I also have some that are just general digestive enzymes. And then sometimes I carry HCl with me because I feel like that breaks things down a little bit better. So if I'm not sure what I'm eating, those tend to be really great to have. But what I found too is when I stress about it, it becomes worse. And so I really try, all digestion happens in the brain anyway. So if we're starting to freaking out and oh my gosh, this is gluten. I didn't know that. Then I'm going to get everything worse than it already is. And so I try to just accept it, and I try to just breathe through it and not allow it to affect my digestion. And it is what it is. And I know that my skin will have some issues in a couple days, but I also know that happens. And when I'm traveling, like this happened in Europe. It was awesome. I was in Copenhagen, and I was staying with Piori, and they left me this box of biscotti, gluten-free biscotti. I was like, yes, this is amazing. I'm so hungry. We got off the plane, and I just downed like half a box. And the first ingredient was buttermilk, and I was like, how did I not even read this? And my skin was so bad, and I just had to it was what it was. Like I could be mad at myself and I could hate my body, I could hate my skin, or I could just like accept that this is going to happen and it sucks, but it'll clear up. It's not going to be on me forever. And it is what it is. Because the more we stress about things, then we're going to cause the paradigm of all the things we're trying to fix in the first place.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is to explain to people that, try to tap to like their knowledge, and like I ask them, have you ever heard of someone going on a vacation and losing weight even though they were eating whatever they wanted? And it's like, yeah, well, when you are resting and you are having fun and you're sleeping better and now you have a little bit of latitude with what you can tolerate.
Oh, yeah, it's so true because you're just like living the way you should live. And we don't, like these people that come to my office that have horrible time eating. If they eat a cracker, they're debilitated pain, but then they go to Europe and they can have bread and they're fine.
And then they try to excuse it. Oh, it's ancient grains. No, you were relaxed. And then the opposite happens though. Like if we're super stressed, what do we say? Oh, I'm just going to eat like shit because I'm stressed. And that is probably the moment where you should eat the best meals because that's a stressor that you can control.
Yeah. And it's what your body's craving, even though it feels like it's craving sugar. It's really just so many times it's just wanting real food to get out of that cycle.
So do you have a lot of patients with orthorexia or exercise, where they can't stop exercising?
I think in some always mild cases, but I think there's more than they realize, where people, uh, if they don't work out, they feel like a failure because it's something when you're working out, you're doing something and it feels amazing and you can instantly get the gratification of sweating and you can feel sore. But with eating healthier, you don't get that instant effect. So it's such an easy cycle to get into where when you're trying to get into basically it's a control thing, right? We don't like the way we look, so we need to feel like we're in control of something, and we can be in control of the food on our plate, and we can be in control of the way we move. And so when we're constantly feeling like I'm doing something, I'm sweating, I'm being active, then it's so easy to get into that cycle of doing that all the time, because that's now your control. That's your way of feeling like you can change your body in some way. And then I see it go, it always backfires if it's too much, right? So then we hit this cortisol paradigm where it's actually breaking down muscle, and they're no longer seeing muscle definition. They're seeing their stomach not change at all. And, they might be getting a little bit stronger, but they are just tired, and now their sleep gets affected. And I think more people are actually addicted to exercise than they realize. And, for me, I've definitely been one of those people for sure. And I do think you should move in some way every day, but it doesn't have to be in the gym, on the clock, for rounds or for reps, because when you start moving to celebrate your body and not punish it is when you start to really feel connected to it in a way that's a stress-free connection. You're not causing more stress on your body, therefore going backwards instead of forwards.
So what are some of the warning signs, that when you are like pausing yourself and you're going to change your narrative to this client, because you know that you have to tread carefully because this patient can be just pushed, over the edge.
So I want to know where their cortisol is just in general. So I usually just talk to them and have a conversation like, are you having a hard time sleeping at night? Do you wake up like anxious? Do you clench or grind your teeth? Do you just feel like your brain cannot turn off? Kind of this energy, this higher cortisol paradigm where I know that working out, especially if their diet is not healthy, or maybe their carbs are too much or too little for what they're doing, they're just going to keep that cycle going. And so what I talk to them about is I say, it's hard, but I try to give them alternatives. So the first thing is, we never want to get to the point where we're going to puke. We never want to get to the point where you feel like you're going to die. You really need to feel like you're moving and you're sweating, but not like, if you had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, you never get to 8. You're always just like really being consistent. You're keeping your heart rate at a lower level. So if that probably means for them more rest intervals. So for example, for a CrossFit workout, a lot of times it's 5 rounds nonstop, or it's, 20 minutes nonstop. And so what I have them do is I have them have the conversation with their coach or their trainer, and I integrate more rest periods. So they would do 2 minutes on, 1 minute off, 2 minutes on, 1 minute off. So they would never push themselves to the point where they feel like they're getting tapped into, where their adrenals are getting tapped into. And that seems more doable for people, because it really is hard to tell people to stop moving. But then I can also give them other solutions, like maybe you should try going to the sauna instead of 2 times a week. Try the sauna. We have a really cool couple places here in Denver where there's like all recovery rooms. So there's hot, cold, there's like ice bath and a hot tub, and you can do
some hydro
therapy that way. Yes, for sure. Cryotherapy. There's so many alternatives where you don't have to necessarily be strenuous exercise, but you can still be doing something with your body that is a good alternative for somebody like me who has to be feeling like they're doing something with their body in order to just feel good. So that's been something that I've used and has helped some of my clients.
Have you ever done a flotation tank?
All the time. I have one 3 blocks away.
Oh man, I love floating.
Oh, it's so nice. It's the nicest float tank. It's like all new age, like fancy. I feel like I'm in a spaceship.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, no, but that's I don't know if that it should be substituted for exercise. You're not sweating, you're not, so sauna, that's a great strategy, because now you're detoxing.
I know, and I actually have a little sauna in my house now. So I got a little pocket sauna, and it's the near infrared, and it's like, I love it, because I feel like I'm always like, if I can't work out, at least I can do that. And it's been helpful for everything. It's been cool.
So, one last thing, before we start talking about handles and all that, face space stuff, anything you want to say to girls that out there that don't want to lift weights because they don't want to look manly?
Oh yeah, gosh. I feel like, the first thing I see when somebody wants to come up to me or like they want to start getting a different body composition is they usually use the word toned. And so I try to explain it this way. I say, toned, one, it does, I hate that word, but I'm going to let you use it because we just met. But what else? I'll teach them, when you think of toned, all that is improved muscle mass. And the only way to build muscle mass is to lift weights and to get strong. And so when you're looking at, body composition that you want, if you gave me 3 pictures of women that you see that you want to look like, the way I would say to do it is very specific strength training. And it's amazing because there's a very, very small percentage of women that when they lift very heavy weights, they get bulky. And it's usually because they're doing purely mass building strength programs. And so there's so many different strength programs that will allow you to build muscle mass and not get bulky. You can incorporate it into sprint work and box jumps and plyometrics. And it's like this look that you want, whether it's toned or whether it's just more muscle definition, it only comes from stimulating that hormonal response and that central nervous system by getting under a barbell or lifting heavy weights. So
how cool it would it be if just lifting weights made you look like Arnold? How many? I wish it was true, but at 155 pounds, I squat and I deadlift, and sadly I don't look like Arnold.
It's kind of fascinating. Like when I watch some of those bodybuilding documentaries, I'm like, these guys are insane. Nobody understands the dedication it takes behind the scenes to get to that physique. So everyone should strength train, especially women. Put some weight over your head. If you're nervous about a barbell, then that's why I love my EmPack. It's a really safe way to get some strength training. It's so fun to get 60-year-olds to start doing deadlifts with that thing. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. But yes, I think everyone should do it.
Oh, so where can people sign up for your next 21-day challenge? How can they get a hold of you? What's your handles?
Yeah, so all of my handles are Emily Schromm. So I'm most active on Instagram. If you want to check out my website, it's Emily Schromm, and that's where you can sign up for the 21-day challenge. That's starting July 10th. So it's coming up pretty soon. I run them 4 times a year with all new videos and meal plans, and it's just a really fun community that does it all at once. And then I have, my superhero challenge is the challenge that I call it. So that's on Instagram as well. And I do a lot of fun recipes there. And then my third and final Instagram is Evolved Motion. So that's my EmPack. So the empack.com is the website. But if you want to check out my invention, just check out Evolved Motion. And that's the Instagram.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was so much fun to sit down on a panel with you and now actually connecting and having this.
Thanks for having me, Guillermo.
Thank you for being here.